But you did, even though you were on a pretty low level on the West Coast, you did convince J.K. Simmons to be in the short film, and then to continue into the feature, and Miles Teller, who is beyond being a rising star at this point, he is a star, to be in Whiplash, and they're both extraordinary. But that took some doing, and
you get lucky, and in that sense, again, I probably can thank my the writer's life that I just complained about. I met a few people through writing that this is how LA works. I went up to pitch for Ouija, like the board, Ouija board. So they, in its infinite wisdom, Hollywood decided to do a Ouija movie, and so I went up to, in my infinite wisdom, I decided that'd be a great movie for me to do. So I went up to pitch for it.
it would be.
I went up to pitch for it, not as a director, of course, just as a writer, and because they would never let me direct it, and so I spent months developing this, really involved. Pages and pages of this involved plot breakdown of how I would do a Ouija movie, and I went in and pitched on it, and I think it was to Universal and a few production companies, and they all hated it and passed, and that was it. But the one exec who was in the circle of production companies who had kind of initially thought of me for it and had helped me nurture the pitch a little bit and was kind of my one champion there was this guy Cooper Samuelson. Who I'd met when he was co-producing James Gray's movies. And so, we went from me sort of, worshiping at the altar of James Gray, who I think's one of the greatest living filmmakers, to meeting again in a very different cinematic context. And he, so that seemed like a loss, and okay, I'm going to move on from this waste of a few months and a few, brain cells spent on this project that went nowhere. And about a year later, he was the first person I sent, not the first person, he was one of the people I sent Whiplash to, the script. And he was the only person who saw anything in it, who thought maybe he could actually, everyone else in town passed, and he was the one person who said, let me see what I can do about this. And he was friends with Jason Reitman's producer, Helen Estabrook, gave them the script. Jason Reitman knows J.K. Simmons. Jason Reitman convinced J.K. Simmons to do it, and then we were off to the races. So it's not to say that I couldn't have wound up in the same place, in another iteration, but it is funny that Ouija paved the way for for this.